Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll talk about the $500 million US Navy's warship, the Littoral Combat Ship. So without further ado, let's begin. There are two types of relatively small surface ships in the US Navy that are designed to work close to shore. A littoral battleship is one type of this group. There are two groups. It was envisioned to be a networked, agile, stealthy surface combatant capable of defeating anti-access and asymmetric threats in the littorals. But it has been questioned whether these people will be able to actually do what they say they can do. So where did everything begin? The United States Navy found that the Soviet Union was no longer a threat after the Cold War ended. This meant that it had lost its main reason for existing. In the 1990s, the US Navy did not have a clear goal. This, along with budget problems that all the services were facing because of less money for defense, meant that the Navy needed a new purpose. The concept of network-centric warfare, which came about in the late 1990s, gave the US Navy big jobs like keeping a presence around the world through sea bases and making sure that people could get into contested zones. The goal of this doctrine was to give the US Navy strategic benefits. The idea of small, light, and fast nodes that connected to each other in battle took on new meaning in network-centric fighting. With this in mind, the US Navy had to move away from its usual platforms, which were big, complicated, and flexible ships. In network-centric warfare, projecting power ashore was also given more importance. This meant that ships that could operate in coastal waterways were likely to be used. From that point on, the idea of a littoral combat ship was accepted. As for its design, former Secretary of the Navy Gordon R. England said that the littoral combat ship is meant to create a small, fast, maneuverable, and relatively inexpensive member of the DDX family of ships. This is how the idea behind the littoral battleship is explained. It's easy to change the ship's configuration so that it can do many things, including anti-submarine warfare, mine countermeasures, anti-surface warfare, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, homeland defense, maritime intercept, special operations, and supplies. The LCS can replace slower and more specialized ships like minesweepers and bigger amphibious assault ships thanks to its modular design. According to a study released in 2010, the Pentagon's Director of Operational Test and Evaluation found that neither design was meant to survive in a hostile combat environment, and neither ship could handle the Navy's whole ship shock tests. The Navy replied that the LCS is built to a level 1 plus survivability level, and that the ships will rely on network warnings and speed to avoid being hit. If they are hit, they will be able to limp to safety. It was said by ADM Jonathan Greenard that the crew would conduct an orderly abandoned ship if enemy fire hit their ship. What you're about to do might not be necessary on other boats in the same situation. As they were meant to do their job and then leave the area on their own, the ships were made to be as resistant to damage as possible by incorporating advanced automatic damage control technologies. As per the LCS sustainment idea, many of the historical tasks that were done on board the ship are now done by groups that are not on board. These tasks include logistics, maintenance, and training. This means that the ship's crew doesn't have to do these tasks to support the minimal manning plan. It's possible for LCAs to offer help from afar thanks to the maintenance help team. MSTs are in charge of working with the Regional Repair Center, the Mission Package Support Facility, and the Supply Enterprise to make sure that all of the LCS's logistics and repair needs are met. The LCS Squadron, the LCS Training Facility, and the Surface Ship Type Commander Offload Training Group are all in charge of giving their own staff chances to learn and get certified. There are two key factors supporting LCS. The LCS Support Facility has offices for LCSRO and employees, off-ship personnel, and pre-commissioning teams. The LTF houses important training equipment used to qualify and certify troops and detachments. The MPSF offers sustainment and depot maintenance assistance for mission modules. These organizational aspects, in collaboration with the LCSRO and Commodore, provide complete support to the ships and mission modules both at home and when deployed. Regarding its maintenance, because of the LCS's minimum manning style, Preventative maintenance is carried out by a combination of ship's crew and contracted personnel. The LCS sustainment strategy includes monthly 5-day preventative maintenance availability and quarterly 14-day continuous maintenance availability, CMAVs, in the ship's operational schedule. Deployed LCS mostly perform maintenance at forward operating sites, FOS, which contain embedded maintenance support facilities and staff. Additionally, the ships are capable of doing maintenance at remote operating sites. Because these sites lack embedded support facilities/personnel, flyaway crews must meet the ship there for planned and corrective maintenance. Despite the Navy's high expectations, the Littoral Combat Ship was deemed a failure and did not meet the expectations. The United States Navy's over-reliance on a limited number of shipyards, combined with a strong lobbying campaign by major defense contractors, meant that congressional efforts to cut funding in the early stages of the program, citing worries that were later proven right, were bound to fail. The acquisition of the Littoral Combat Ship is an example of the military-industrial complex at work, and it should not be overlooked. While strong collaboration among the services, officials, and contractors can be useful, mistakes like the Littoral Combat Ship can damage U.S. military capabilities while wasting resources that could be better spent elsewhere. People from other countries and other critics have been talking about the problems with the LCS scheme for years. Of course, they haven't seen the bigger problems that caused the program to fail in the end. There has been a lot of criticism of the mission modules, but these were the main reasons why the LCS project failed as a whole. 1. The large number of new systems and pieces of tools that were brought into the class but couldn't be understood by the system that was used to buy, test, and grade them to. In order to meet the need for high speed, weight and room were taken away from other features that could have been used for other reasons. 3. There was a love-hate relationship between the Surface Navy and the LCS, which meant that a lot of the institutional leadership in the surface force could not back the battle. 4. Since the LCS was an outsider from the start, it is unclear whether the Navy's leaders of surface ships thought it could even work with the existing operating frameworks and patterns. This ship could not stay with a carrier strike group or an amphibious ready group for long without needing a lot of fuel because its range was too low. Because it wasn't very good at fighting from the air or the ground, it didn't fit into the tactical frameworks of either of those units. The LCS's off-board maintenance schedule did not follow past Navy rules, which say that sailors should either fix their own gear or rely on uniformed Navy personnel, instead of contractors to come on board and do maintenance. Because of this, a lot of people on the surface thought the LCS was a destructive destroyer or a Perry-class frigate instead of a top-notch surface fighter. People who are against the LCS plan keep talking about how hard it is to implement technically. However, it is important to remember that the LCS is different from other surface fleet programs in terms of culture. Unfortunately, this is the case because the Navy has to meet a lot of operational needs in order to carry out its global task set. As part of some of these standards, cruise missile salvos may not be fired, or air and missile defense for high-value units may not be provided. The Navy is mostly interested in how valuable Aegis units are, so the Phase 0 shaping operations, maritime security, and missions outside of the near Indo-Pacific theater that are perfect for an LCS don't seem important or worth investing in. Due to their early retirement, LCS could be brought back into service in the event of a major war that needs more ships. That's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and comment down your thoughts on this. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.